What's going on, everybody? This is John Jank Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the Coach Grossman Dynasty here on NCAA 14, featuring that college football revamp, of course. And we got a good episode in store, as you can see by the title and fun. We are going to take a look around the country, take a look at your custom prospects at both the high school and collegiate level. And not only that, we are also going to find out what bowl game we are going to. Are we going to the national championship game, or will we be going to a New Year's Six bowl? So no matter what happens, it's going to be a great episode in store, and I hope you guys are ready for it. If you are, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you have to be brand new. And let's go ahead and jump right into it, starting with some of the conference championship games that feature your custom prospects. So the first custom prospect that I wanted to talk to you guys about is Jonathan Thompson. He is playing defensive line at the University of Buffalo, and you want to talk about the progress in general for the Buffalo Bulls. This was a team last year that did not win a single game, and now here they are, one game away from winning the MAC championship all in 1 year. What a great turnaround by this Buffalo program, as we take a look and check out some of the highlights for Jonathan Thompson playing in one of his last collegiate games. Although right now, Western Michigan looking to take a 14-0 lead, and they will do just that. So not a great start for the Buffalo defense, already surrendering 14 points already, and we're not even done with the first quarter of this game yet. So not a good look, but this is where we start to see just a little bit more of Jonathan Thompson. Towards the end of the first quarter, quarterback is going to line up in the pistol. And look at the hustle by Jonathan Thompson, getting off of his blocks, and he is going to make sure to get a hit on the receiver. So that does count the first tackle of the day for Jonathan Thompson. How about 2 tackles of the day for Mr. Thompson? I'm sure his dad, Jim Thompson, the head coach of Youngstown State, he is going to be so proud of his young man. As we'll see if Thompson, he can get something to shake here, as Thompson forces a fumble. It does not end up being recovered by the defense, but how about Thompson, for shaking off his block, just bulldozes over an offensive lineman. And how about making your presence felt, forcing a 3rd and long, as Dawson wants to throw it but nowhere to go with it. Thompson forces a 2nd fumble. You cannot make this up. Back to back like a Drake song, he forces 2 fumbles in a row. And a great start for the senior defensive lineman, keeping his team in it, only down 14-10. Dawson looking to throw again, but Thompson gets another sack. The 3rd sack of the game for Jonathan Thompson, who leads the team in sacks on the year, and doing it in a different way. This time doing a little pimp slap. You'll love to see it. And now, 1 minute left here in this first half. We're going to get some more pressure on this quarterback, and Dawson trying to scramble, but Thompson gets himself yet another tackle. And you want to talk about a guy that's been all over the place. It seems like 6 tackles, 3 TFLs, and 3 sacks, but he can't do anything about the defense that's behind him. Sam Arnold takes the cap off the defense and is going to end up going for a 59-yard touchdown. So Western Michigan, they do end up taking a 21-10 lead into the locker room. And it's going to be more than Jonathan Thompson if Buffalo wants to win this conference championship game. And we'll see if he can deliver, as Thompson, he gets some pressure on the quarterback, and while it's not a sack, it's going to be yet another sack for Mr. Thompson. The 4th sack of the day for Jonathan, and he's just going off this time, doing the spin move in order to get to that quarterback, getting him off his spot, and will force Western Michigan to punt the ball away. It does also help that Buffalo does end up getting a field goal. So all of a sudden, it really is just a one-possession game here as we jump into the fourth quarter. We'll see if they can complete the comeback. As now, 1st and 10, Dawson looking to his right, and oh, it's almost intercepted. Thousand had his hands on the football, but he drops it. That's why he's not playing defensive back or tight end. Those hands aren't very good, but one thing that he is good at, just showing some great instincts to the football. Already now an 8th tackle for Jonathan Thousand. But despite that, Western Michigan driving downfield as now McBride gets a decent carry, and while brought down by Thousand, it's an 8-yard rush. And now a goal line situation here. Big play. And Jonathan's going to slip and fall, which allows for Chad Anderson to run it into the end zone. Touchdown, Western Michigan. And it's back up to a 2-score game. Now up 28-13 officially. And that's even despite the fact that Buffalo has more offensive yards than what Western Michigan has. As it's getting really critical now. We need to get a stop on defense in order to keep this game alive. We'll see if we can do any of that. But another touchdown for Western Michigan is going to end up sealing the deal. It was really an admirable performance for Jonathan Thousand. Ended up with close to double-digit tackles, but it wasn't enough. Western Michigan still getting the points that they want on the board, and they're going to win this game comfortably, winning the MAC Conference Championship. But even though his team will end up falling short here in the MAC Championship, Jonathan Thousand balled out today. He led the team in tackles with 9 tackles, 8 solo. Also came through with 4 TFLs, which did also lead the squad. 4 sacks, so he was all over this quarterback. Had a deflection that could have been an interception if his hands were not made of stone. And finally, he forced 2 separate fumbles in the first half. Unfortunately, neither of them were recovered, but he did everything he could to help his team win. It just wasn't enough, unfortunately, but a great performance by Jonathan Thousand in the MAC Championship. But let's go ahead and jump into another conference championship game that not only has custom prospects on both teams, but also serves some extremely importance for us moving forward as we see Malachi Hill, a Season 1 custom recruit, coming up in there and getting the TFL. My man read the read option and was able to get that loss with relative ease, and forcing UCF to go 3rd and long, and it ends up being intercepted anyways by the Iowa State defensive backfield. And this game has some serious implications. Y'all already know I don't have the college football playoff set up, so yes, we do have that win against number 4 Georgia, but Iowa State is also ahead of us. I'm hoping that we can jump over them, but it would help if UCF would be able to pull the upset just like this. UCF managing to get an interception, the number 10 team in college football. These guys can play as well. They've had some really good football teams over the last few seasons. It's definitely has happened, as we will end up seeing a 3rd and 4, but definitely seeing some turnovers here early on. Like the fact that there's more turnovers than points right now, that is a little bit concerning, but maybe this will finally get the goose egg off the scoreboard. We'll see if Iowa State can go ahead and cash in, and they will do just that. Adrian McKinley is going to find himself into the end zone, and it's going to be a touchdown for Iowa State, also extending a school record. That is his 41st rushing touchdown of his collegiate career. He's been having a phenomenal career so far, as we see this UCF offense desperately trying to get some points on the board. But yeah, man, we got Malachi Hill, as you know, from Iowa State, but let's see if we also see Joseph Krakowski of UCF as well on top of it, as we will go into halftime, and the Iowa State Cyclones, they're going to come up 10-0 here. But the Iowa State Hawkeyes are currently enjoying a 10-0, and how about make it a 17-0 lead for the Iowa State Hawkeyes, man. What a throw by Warren Crowell, as he's going to throw a dime down the sideline. Receiver does his job in beating the secondary. It is not looking good for the UCF Knights. Down 17-0 at the moment, and definitely going to need a comeback to go ahead and win the Big 12 championship game. We'll see if they can deliver. 3rd and 9 from midfield, and their running back was not even close. That was Malachi Hill that got in there and basically ruined that play. And we don't even see UCF score maybe until the 4th quarter, and that is if they don't decide to go ahead here and just trying to go about going for it on 4th down, which they will do, as they will throw on 4th and 2, and they do manage to get it a touchdown. Chad Smith finally gets UCF on the board for the very first time today, but is it going to be just a little too late though? 5:45 left to play in the 4th quarter. Doesn't look that good, although this might change some things here, as we got a turnover and UCF is actually going to recover. Oh, did they needed that in the biggest way, and it looks like that fumble is going to go ahead and stand as well. So a chance to cut this down to a 1-possession game, and sure enough, look who it is. Chad Smith getting into the end zone once again. Another touchdown for Alan Patterson and company. And this thing is knotted up down to just a field goal. Things are getting really intense down here for the Big 12 championship game. It has been that high scoring, but can still go in either direction, as the UCF will later get themselves in the field position to set up the field goal, and it will be up, and it's going to be good. So this thing is all knotted up at 17 apiece, and we are actually going to go ahead and go into overtime. UCF is going to start with the football, but it's going to be intercepted in the end zone. And that, it wasn't even like a terrible decision. That receiver just could not get those hops off the ground. White man cannot jump, as the movie quote says. And it will set up Iowa State a chance to win the Big 12 championship, and it's going to be good. Iowa State is going to end up winning the Big 12 championship game. And depending on what happens around the country, what the pollsters decide, man, they might be going to that national championship game as well. We'll just have to wait and see on that. So for UCF, even though they did hang tough in this one, we actually didn't get to see any Joseph Kukowski in this one. I mean, he is a starting fullback, but UCF isn't necessarily known for using their fullbacks very often, if at all. He did come in, of course, with just 8 carries on the entire season, and not even being shown on the special teams unit. But that being said, though, for Malachi Hill, in one of his last games as a collegiate athlete, he was doing pretty good out there. 7 tackles. TFL did not have any sacks or anything like that, but a really good game nonetheless. He was active in coverage today, and I'll tell you what, it's going to create an uncomfortable conversation for who's going to get that second spot. Is it going to be Florida, who was sitting idle this week, us, who did end up winning the SEC championship in the last episode, or this Iowa State squad that just won the Big 12 and were ranked ahead of us? We'll just have to wait and see what the pollsters have in store for us in terms of what bowl game we get to go to. Wow, so I thought we were going to see the Heisman moment for Antonio Dunn, but I'm pretty sure my man just got robbed in this one. We end up losing the Heisman to Warren Crowell, the Iowa State quarterback who we just saw in the Big 12 championship game. And it was pretty close to being a consensus too, apparently. Most of the first place votes going to him. I strongly disagree with that. Antonio Dunn had a heck of a season. We ended up getting robbed. But that being said, we end up moving up to number 3. Now, if I was able to get the college football playoff rolling on this Xbox, then we would be in the college football playoff, but that is sadly not the case. That being said, though, I am still excited about the All-State Sugar Bowl, and you know what? It creates a more difficult challenge to get to the national championship game, taking on a good UCF team that almost won the Big 12. We got ourselves a heck of a battle, and I'm certainly going to be excited for what is going to be in store for us. But even though we did not end up winning the Heisman, we did end up seeing some other award winners. For example, Eric Gunn does end up winning the Chuck Bednarik Award. We also see Marcus Johnson ending up with the Bronco Nagurski, going to one of the best defensive linemen in college football. He's currently leading the NCAA in sacks. Speaking of Johnson, he also wins the Vince Lombardi Award. Gunn also getting the Dick Butkus. You love to see it. Jayshawn Tate, he ends up winning Johnny the Jet Rogers Award. That goes to the best kick returner in college football. And I believe he had a touchdown in the SEC championship game now. So, I mean, don't get it twisted. We do end up going to number 3. Now, I know one of these ACC teams did end up going to the national championship. I'm actually really curious to see how the top 25 polls end up shaking out. And sure enough, it is going to be Iowa State that's going to the national championship game. They don't even... Oh, I guess this is the coaches poll. I guess that would make sense. BCS. This is what we need. Yeah, we finished in 3rd place in the BCS final poll. We do leapfrog over Florida, and then we did end up beating Georgia. So we at least, took care of that. Also saw ourselves, jump over Clemson because they lost in the ACC championship. But man, we were so close to getting ourselves into that national championship game. Just wasn't meant to be, but we still got a really good bowl game that I'm certainly excited about nonetheless. So on that note, we will continue the update on your custom prospects scattered around this dynasty. And we'll go ahead and check down in Southern Florida, where we were coaching at prior to taking the head coaching job at the University of Oklahoma, as there is a custom prospect starting at quarterback now, and it is Mitch Steele, who in his sophomore redshirt campaign, he is going to be the successor for Timmy McClain, and they do have him. Not as good of a year as we experienced while I was coaching the squad, but that being said, though, Southern Florida still had some success this season. They are still in the bowl game down here at the Gasparilla Bowl, but taking on a former conference opponent in the SMU Mustangs, who did get demoted down to Conference USA. And they're actually down quite a bit early, down 14-3, but showing a little bit of speed for Mitch Steele as he takes a carry to the left-hand side, picking up that first down and getting a gain of 7. But we actually throw it to the wrong receiver there, as that ball was way off target. That was supposed to go to RB, and instead it goes to a different receiver. It ends up getting intercepted, and lucky for him, that did not lead to points, but got to make better decisions if they want to come and win this bowl game, as Nathan Steffens gets that throw right over the middle for a great first down, as Steele looking to try to get some more yards through the air, finds Patrick Starks for a gain of 15 on that one. That's his first catch of the day. We'll see if USF can finally score. Mitch looking over the middle and finds RJ Drew for a 20-yard catch. It was a great throw. However, USF had to settle for a field goal there, so didn't get the touchdown that they were looking for. And still, here we are in the second half, and USF still has not scored yet, at least with their offense. It's been all on the kicker so far, and they're down by 20 because of it. We'll see if Mitch Steele can go ahead and finally lead a touchdown drive, but Tyler Ray ends up getting shaken up, so he's going to have to do this without his best receiver. Thankfully, Mitch Steele, we know he's still got a little bit of wheels up on him. He gets up a gain of 9, but it won't be enough as it's yet another field goal that the Bulls had to settle for. They're down 26-9, and it's going to get a lot worse as he throws an interception out of his own end zone. It's the second interception that Mitch Steele has thrown in this ball game, and all of a sudden it's now a 33-9 game, and we are running out of football to play here. So we'll see if Mitch Steele can lead the comeback. Looking around on 1st and 10, looking for the end zone here. Is gonna finally find the end zone. Found Nathan Steffens on the seam, and just a beautiful throw over the middle. And that's the thing about Mitch Steele. He is going to get better. He's only a sophomore to this point, so we should be seeing a little bit more of Mitch Steele for years to come. But for right now, a 21-point deficit that they're up against and desperately needing another score. Steele looking on a free wide set, looks right, and a very tight window, but still found Nathan Steffens nonetheless. 17-yard catch there. And in order to try to get it into the end zone, how about Drew Myers coming up and making that catch? That's a 43-yard grab. It's Mitch Steele now equips over 300 yards of passing in this game. He'll eventually hand it off to Chuck Silva in order to get it into the end zone. And things can suddenly get a little interesting now, as on the following possession, we do end up seeing USF, getting a turnover, little pick 6. SMU, they got a field goal. It's now a 10-point game. So we'll see if they can do anything, but unfortunately, just a little bit too little too late. That slow start that the Southern Florida Bulls had in the first half, that kind of did them in. They tried to rally back in that second half, but it was just too big of a deficit. And honestly, that was a problem for the program when we were coaching them last season. Slow starts of occasionally killing us a little bit, leading to our losses, and the same thing did indeed happen here. So Mitch Steele does certainly have a bright future ahead of him. This is just his first year as the starting quarterback, but that being said, it wasn't the best of days for the quarterback, as he's 25 for 36, 358 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Most importantly, they do end up losing the Gasparilla Bowl to the SMU Mustangs, who did just drop down to Conference USA, and they will be finishing the year 7-6. But on top of those passing yards, Mitch Steele did also contribute 45 yards on the ground. So, a decent statistical performance, but just couldn't do enough to lead his team over the top. They will finish the season actually on a 4-game losing streak. But it wouldn't be a recruiting special if we didn't talk about the only kicker or punter that is in the Dynasty. Danny Daniel, y'all already know, kicking for Colorado, is out here with the Colorado Buffaloes, and this year they are in the Las Vegas Bowl, which was the first bowl that we got to coach in as a collegiate coach back when we were with the Air Force Falcons way back in season number 1, man. So definitely an interesting time to be alive, as hey, Danny Daniel, he's doing his thing, man. He's kicking field goals, he's kicking some extra points. He's been absolutely perfect from the field so far in terms of his kicks, and after Colorado gets that last touchdown, they will end up sealing the deal, and the Colorado Buffaloes will get a little bit better of a result this year. They will indeed end up winning the Las Vegas Bowl, and Danny Daniel, he was instrumental in that. They actually give him a player of the play of the game, because we only did field goals and extra points. basically when Danny Daniel was on the field. Surprisingly, not doing kickoffs yet, but he is more of an accuracy kind of guy instead of really a big kick power kind of guy. So pretty cool. So not only was it a perfect game for Danny Daniel, but also we did see Colorado end up winning the Las Vegas Bowl. And Danny Daniel, he did his job, man. He ended up going 2 for 2 on his field goal attempts. Granted, it was only his 26-yarder that was the longest. And then he was also 3 for 3 on extra points. But so, didn't really ask him to make too many kicks. But he did knock through the ones that he was asked to do. That's all you can ask for from your kicker. Hit those kicks that we need you to make. So, great day for Danny Daniel, indeed. But moving ourselves back over to the skill position, guys, and Nebraska actually has got a couple of skill position guys on the field. Andy Blacks is not one of them, but how about that play to get into the end zone, though? That was not necessarily a clear path, and Andy Black was still able to find a way to get it into the end zone. Ends up being a 28-yard scamper into the end zone, and it will end up being a touchdown for Nebraska there, as it will be an early 7-0 lead. Let's talk about these two custom prospects that are in the game for us, both at wide receiver. First one that you're seeing is Eli Thompson. He's been around a little bit longer. I believe he is a junior, I want to say. But, you know, definitely a guy that, even though is not very fast, he does have some really great skills to work with. Kind of like a Julian Edelman, not known for the athleticism, but, you know, definitely a student of the game, as they like to say, as Eli Thompson does end up getting himself yet another catch. And so getting heavily involved in that drive makes it 10-0. How about Nelson thrown to the right-hand side, getting it over to Wardell Jackson? That's the other custom player that's in this thing, man. Nice 18-yard catch for Wardell, the sophomore, as Nebraska will end up finding the end zone once again as Eli Thompson gets a touchdown in this one, and an early lead here in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl against Georgia Tech, who was recently demoted down to Conference USA as well. They were, of course, originally in the ACC, but just were not up to snuff in that conference. And this is why I really like to see Wardell Jackson play. You know, definitely fighting for every yard. You know, that was just like a 3-4 yard catch. He turned it into 10 yards in that one. So definitely some great play that we are witnessing from both wide receivers on this team. As a 3rd and 11, looking at Wardell Jackson, who almost got himself a touchdown too. He's going to be marked down at the 1 yard line. But man, what a hit that he took. Luckily, he is a pretty tough kid, so he hung on to it, and that will allow for Andy Black to find himself into the end zone. Touchdown, Nebraska! And it's going to be 24-9, so a big lead here for the Nebraska Cornhuskers as we get into the 4th quarter. And that, if that doesn't seal the deal, I really don't know what will, as Ken Moody, that is their fullback, by the way. That's the fullback getting a little bit of action there, getting that touchdown, getting basically a game-sealing score, but they're not even done with their scoring yet. They're going to score another one with Andy Black because, I mean, they're right there on the end zone, man. Georgia Tech, good season for them, but just ran into a freight train in the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who, you know, the type of team that beats who they're supposed to beat, but when they're underdogs, they typically don't win. Like, they're in that type of state as a program right now. But a good victory, not getting to play every game, though. So not only did we see the Nebraska Cornhuskers win the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, we did also end up seeing our custom receivers doing some pretty good work overall. Eli Thompson led the team in catches today with 5 catches for 72 yards and also scored a touchdown. But then we also saw Wardell Jackson do pretty good as the number 2 receiver. He ended up with 3 catches, 45 yards, and also almost found his way into the end zone as well. On top of that, we did also see Eli Thompson. We tried to get him involved in a jet sweep, but I didn't show that highlight because as you can see, it only went for 1 yard. And I'm not trying to show you 1 yard highlights if it's not for like a third down conversion or something like that. So yeah, that being said, good day for our custom receivers as Nebraska does finish their season on a high note. Up next in this custom recruit special, we have Donnie Watson coming in here as Donnie Watson starting off well with a nice little carry up the right hand side, a nice little 7-yard run as they are taking on the number 15 team in America, the Wisconsin Badgers. And the interesting thing about Tennessee, man, I just found out they actually use the Air Force playbook. So they are actually a triple option team, something that I really did not realize before, I actually started playing with them, in NCAA 14, right? So that's just something that was really interesting to me, seeing that triple option, really making its impact. Maybe we did something with the success we had at Maryland before we get our first head coaching job, but not before we do also see Tennessee know a thing or two about passing that football. Jonathan Hill just gets wide butt naked open off of a 4 verticals route, just wins off the line of scrimmage with relative ease, and that was a really big play too. That got Tennessee right back into the game, and it is certainly a close one right now. 6-point game towards the end of the third quarter. Gonna pitch it out to Donnie Watson, who sees the end zone. Touchdown, Volunteers. And one of the best running backs in all of college football is gonna get himself into the end zone there. Touchdown for Tennessee, and you absolutely love to see it. And that will actually give Tennessee the lead here, as it's now a 29-28 game. The first time that the Volunteers have actually had a lead in the entirety of the Music City Bowl. So it's been some tough running for Donnie Watson. They've tried to keep him in the box. I mean, when you're as run heavy as Tennessee is, everyone in the stadium knows what's going to happen. But despite that, Donnie Watson still found some holes, still looking to go about making some big plays. As speaking of big plays, how about Jonathan Hill coming out here and making another score? This time only a 39-yard touchdown, but it extends the lead. We'll see if they end up going ahead and going for 2 or not, given they already have a 7-point lead. Without the extra point, they don't do that, but 2.5 minutes left. Wisconsin still down, and now it really is Donnie Watson time. This is where he makes his mark, just on the verge of 100 yards. Don't know, we'll have to check the stats if he ends up getting it, but we will at least see him get a second touchdown here. And that last touchdown does end up sealing the deal. An upset for the Tennessee Volunteers, as Donnie Watson and company does end up beating the number 15 team in college football in the Wisconsin Badgers. We'll see what happens to Donnie Watson. There's been some rumors about the NFL, but let's check the stats. So we saw Donnie Watson's team win the Music City Bowl, and even though this man went up against 8-man fronts for most of the day, he still found a way to make his presence felt. He ended up with 22 carries, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns in this one, including the touchdown that did end up sealing the Music City Bowl for the Tennessee Volunteers, and they help upset the number 15 team in America in the Wisconsin Badgers. Definitely a high note for an SEC opponent that will probably go up against next season. So going from one SEC team to another, we check in on the Alabama Crimson side, as they are actually down here in the Liberty Bowl taking on the Baylor Bears. As we check in on the final collegiate game for Cruz Wakefield, he was also a Season 1 custom recruit who ended up going to Alabama. Unclear if he does make it to the NFL, but what is clear though is that Cruz Wakefield will indeed end up finding the end zone in a surprisingly close game. I mean, Alabama does have the better athletes, but maybe it's just one of those things where we're starting to see the decline of Nick Saban a little bit. Although it's been a heck of a run for Nick Saban, really you know people hate you, but you know that hate is stemming from really the amount of success that he's had as a head coach at the collegiate level. Not easy to pull off, but Cruz Wakefield does end up scoring yet another touchdown. The second touchdown of the day for Cruz Wakefield, as Alabama will end up taking the lead here in the Liberty Bowl. And despite those 4 interceptions that Zach Rhodes has thrown so far, I mean, at least it seems like that they are actually actively trying to be here, right? It's not a lack of motivation thing, as they are finding ways to get Cruz Wakefield involved in the offense, you know, really throwing the football his way. I don't know if he gets to 100 yards on the day, but he's really trying to make that presence felt, as Rhodes with a chance to win this thing, throwing towards the end zone, and finds Slade Bryant in the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama, as that third touchdown that he throws could seal the deal, and sure enough it does. Nick Saban, don't know how much longer he has coaching, but he will see his team beat the Baylor Bears in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl none of the less, as that last touchdown that was considered the play of the game is going to indeed settle it here as well. And look at this, I mean, just a great performance really by Cruz Wakefield. We'll see if he hits 100 yards. And speaking of Cruz Wakefield, there he is right there. 8 catches, 73 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Truly a performance to remember here at the Liberty Bowl. And finally, for the last custom prospect that I want to go over, at least here at the collegiate level, is John Ross. Again, another season 1 custom prospect. He has been waiting his time. Dude came in as a 1-star prospect, if you guys remember, and finally got his shot in his senior redshirt year, taking on, ironically, Western Michigan. We already saw them in the MAC championship game. Jonathan Thousand couldn't beat them. We'll see if John Ross has a little bit better luck, as Ross rolls out to the right. He finds Eli Watson down the middle of the field, and for the very first time in this series, we actually do end up seeing a custom-to-custom connection that at least gets them into the maroon zone, and John Ross puts it on the money for Jason Freeman. And that 12-yard touchdown is going to be the first touchdown pass that John Ross throws in this game. But they will go for 2 nonetheless, finding Eli Watson in the middle of that zone, just settling down, finding a spot. John Ross does end up finding him. So it does get to at least a 2-possession game here before the end of the first half. They do also get the ball to start the second half, and we will end up seeing if they have what it takes to win this LendingTree.com Bowl, as Ross will drop back, looking over the middle. Tight window for Julian Wood, but he still makes that catch anyways, and now just steps away from making this a 1-possession game potentially. And look at that, Alex Scott gets open on the perimeter, and it's going to be another touchdown for Appalachian State. And it's now just a 10-point game all of a sudden. But interesting enough here, the head coach of App State didn't want to go for it. It's definitely a really interesting decision, but I'm not going to overrule him on that. But still a 1-possession game nonetheless, as we do see Eli Watson and John Ross connect again, as it sets up a 1st and 10 late here in this third quarter. Looking to the right, gets it out to Julian Wood. Now they're sitting on the 35-yard line, looking to get this officially now back to a 1-possession game. Thought the last possession would have done it, but that would have required us to go for 2. That didn't happen, and it also required us to not turn the football over. Carroll down the sideline. 1 man left to beat, and Scott cannot get there in time. And that was not John Ross's fault. We got to call it how it is. Eli Watson fumbles the football, and that difference gets a little bit greater. Still, it was a 1-possession game at one point, but really at that point is when you really saw the wheels really begin to fall off for Appalachian State, right? So after that, you really start seeing really some more sloppy football from the offense. John Ross beginning to go ahead and start forcing some things. And look, John Ross, he's like a complimentary piece. He's not someone that you want him to throw like 30, 40, 50 times in a game. You know, he's more of a, we'll throw it 20 to 25 times and allow the running game do the rest, right? But that just didn't happen today here, forcing John Ross to beat them. And so far, like, for the most part, like, hasn't really been able to put that many drives together. But great story here overall, though. One-star prospect turning into a starting quarterback at the collegiate level. That is something that you really do not see happen very often. And we still got it, man. So, you know, really proud of what John Ross been able to accomplish. And at least he's going to go down fighting a little bit, right? He's going to get another touchdown here in this fourth quarter. And looking for a second touchdown here as well in this fourth quarter. Like I said, not going down fighting, except John Ross fumbles the ball again. The third turnover of the game for this Appalachian State offense. And that will make this game barbecue chicken if it wasn't necessarily that already. 49-22 right now. And we will get a big throw, you know. Hope the stats get a little bit better, but it's becoming more clear that this might not end well, especially when you're pinned deep on the one. Ross going to scramble to the right. He's going to actually throw this thing down, and look at that. Showing a little bit of fight at the end of the game. Julian Wood with a chance to get into the end zone, and sure enough it is. Probably ties a game record for the longest play from scrimmage. And John Ross got it off before that, before he crossed the line of scrimmage. I mean, there wasn't a lot of scrimmage to work with, but, you know, team did not win. They lost pretty badly here in the LendingTree.com Bowl, but John Ross does finish on a high note, last drive being a touchdown. So the final game of John Ross's collegiate career does not go as intended, not coming out on top here in the LendingTree Bowl versus the Western Michigan Broncos. But for a one-star quarterback that got a chance to start, he did a pretty good job. 22 for 39, 361 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. And he wasn't the only custom player that actually ended up playing in this one. Y'all saw some highlights of the future of this program at the wide receiver position in Eli Thompson, who is just a true freshman, by the way. He ended up with 3 catches for 74 yards. There is a couple of players that are ahead of him right now, like Alex Scott is one of them. But that being said, man, watch out for Eli Watson down the line. He's going to be a really good wide receiver at the collegiate level. Maybe somebody that makes it to the NFL one day. But with all that being said, though, there are still prospects at the high school level that you guys have submitted this previous season and still either have signed very late in the recruiting process or still have not signed on the dotted line. One of the players, actually the only player in the custom recruiting class that has not signed the dotted line yet, Emmy Husky Jr. Hailing out of West Virginia, he is a 5-star receiver. And what really makes him deadly as he is such a threat when it comes to his route running. Although maybe not the most athletic, probably average in terms of collegiate athleticism, but his route running, man, really makes him special. He is looking to leave the state of West Virginia, currently emboldened in a recruiting battle between the University of Michigan and Notre Dame, a battle that will take place in the offseason. Another custom prospect that has recently signed on the dotted line is 4-star middle linebacker Ethan Daniels. Now, to get things out of the way right now, the reason why he is only a 4-star prospect instead of a 5-star is that he is somebody that is considered a little bit undersized. I mean, only 220 pounds, that's not a lot for a linebacker per se. But the instincts that this kid has is just absolutely amazing, right? Knowing where to get to the ball, especially in run support. That is going to be huge, really, for any collegiate football program. And I'll tell you what, his first year, I would not be shocked. Even if he doesn't start right away, he will make an impact somewhere, whether as a backup defensive player or on special teams in his freshman year. And then finally, the final custom prospect that I want to go ahead and talk about is defensive lineman Brent Peterson. Now, Brent Peterson, he's more known for somebody that can get to the quarterback, let's say, but at the same time, though, he is somebody that can also help in run support. He has an extraordinarily high motor to look with. I mean, look at this. This man was in a double team, but even though, like, he doesn't get any push initially, he does not give up on the play, and he is someone that could also very well make an impact soon. So that will go ahead and conclude today's episode, but if you enjoyed the content, make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you have to be brand new, enjoyed the recruiting special, and, you know, like the other content that I got on the channel, you know? So, with that being said, next time out, we will play the Sugar Bowl. We'll take on the number 12 team in the nation, the UCF Golden Knights. They were an American Conference team. They're now in the Big 12, and it's already seeing dividends going to a New Year's Six Bowl, but we'll see if we can go ahead and bring them down to earth. But until next time, I hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.